All right, obviously most of you know this one happened yesterday. It did not happen today. Kevin Byard was able to sign early because he was cut before free agency began. So this was able to happen earlier, and he signed for a 2-year, $15 million deal. Of course, we know about the Eddie Jackson cut. I'm going to review that real quick. We owe him $5.58 million in dead cap, basically his signing money. We saved $12.56 million from that. Now, Kevin Byard's contract hasn't been released, the terms of it yet, so I'm very interested to see how that shakes out with the 2-year, $15 million. Ryan Poles is backloading most of these. I think he's really trying to target someone big in free agency. Maybe Connor Williams, maybe Chase Young. I'm not sure who, to be honest, at this point. I think it's coming soon, though. But with this, Kevin Byard, $15 million. We're going to say average 7.5 because the details haven't been released yet. That more than paid for itself with Eddie Jackson. And, of course, most of you know we picked up Tavarius Moore as well from the 49ers Super Bowl run, not win, but run 4 years ago. Had the big interception in the game. Since then, plagued by injuries, really been a special teams player since then. But I really think we're going to use him as depth and replace Elijah Hicks. I can see Elijah Hicks getting cut. Elijah Hicks had a few highlight reel plays, but other than that, really a bad year. You can see right there. So here's the stat categories I really like to analyze and look at. They're obviously, when you're looking at your safeties, you're looking at your playmakers. And so Jaquan Brisker obviously on the team. The next three are all prospects that I had for another video. These were the prospects that I had. I didn't put Kevin Byard on until after he got cut, so it was late addition. But Antoine Winfield, he obviously got tagged. And Xavier McKinney has now signed with the Packers. We'll go over that in a minute. But Eddie Jackson, Elijah Hicks, and Quindell Johnson. Elijah Hicks was a huge liability. So there's their height and weight. Interceptions, forced fumbles. I love the takeaways from the safety position. Huge to me. And we're going to go over how Kevin Byard is huge at that. He is a ball hawk. He really has an eye for the ball. Pass breakups, touchdowns allowed, tackles to missed tackles, their PFF grade, and their PFF rank. Elijah Hicks, look down there, 94th out of 96. And again, PFF rank doesn't mean everything, but when you look at his tackles, 8 to 7 missed tackles, almost a 50% ratio, that's awful. 4 touchdowns allowed in very limited time. He had 1 pass breakup. I mean, he had a highlight reel for a moment, but Elijah Hicks is really a liability to me. All right, we look at Antoine Winfield. He's kind of the gold standard right now. 87 tackles to 10 missed tackles. Xavier McKinney, 94 to 7. That is something Kevin Byard is really good at as well. He's up there with these top elite guys in the league. 88 tackles to 6 missed tackles. He doesn't miss tackles. That's hard to find in a free safety, but Kevin Byard is one of those guys that is like that. So very low missed tackles. If you get a free safety below 5%, that's elite. Below 10% is really good still. And so all three of those guys, Xavier McKinney ended up getting paid way too much, though. So that's the one good thing about the Packers signing him is they overpaid by way too much. So I like that they're causing salary cap problems for themselves. They have a young team, so it shouldn't hit them for a couple years. But keep signing those awful contracts. It's going to catch up to you eventually. All right, here's our depth chart. We've now handled that yellow spot. I'm not going to give a grade yet, but Kevin Byard right now would be a green from last year. He is definitely good. He had a worse year last year than he usually does, though. But, I mean, that's saying a lot for a really talented free safety. These are his years on the left. Here's all the stats from PFF. There's too much to handle there, but there's an overall defensive grade. That's the first green. So the greens and blues are really good. So his run defense, solid. His tackling, solid. Pass rush, it's good, not elite. But his coverage grades are really good, too. The one thing that concerns me, look far to the right. The NFL, right there on the second to last NFL passer rating when he's targeted, 106 this last year. That could be because he was switching from the Titans to the Eagles. There could have been some difficulty adapting. I think he's going to do really well in Matt Eberflus's system. But 79 is good, not elite, but good. Get down to 70. 70 is really good for a free safety. So I'd like to see him down in 70. This is going to be good to see how he does this first year. You see up there, 30 years old, 3 years, 21 is what I was projecting him to go at. He signed it 2 years, 15 million, so I like it. The other guys in this class that I was looking at were Antoine Winfield. He got tagged for 17.1. I projected him 5 years, 18.5 million. And Xavier McKinney on the right, I projected him for 3 years, $37.5 million, $12.5 million average. He ended up signing with the Packers for $17 million average. He hasn't had stacked up elite years. It's just this last year was elite for him. So I'm glad the Bears didn't overpay. Xavier McKinney was the guy I kept bringing up that I really wanted us to go get. But for $17 million, this Kevin Byard signing looks like freaking genius. It looks like a steal of the decade for 2 years, $7.5 million a year. We don't know the full details, like I said, of the contract breakdown, but 2 years, 15 is what it is. All right, so comparing it to the draft, could we still pick up a draft pick? I think at this point, unless we pick up more draft capital, but we're going to do that. Unless we do, and unless that's a need of depth, which it isn't now, I don't see us really picking up someone. Definitely not in the first couple rounds. You guys know I love Tyler Nubin, but I don't see that being something we really go after now. Maybe if someone falls into the fourth round, like Kalen Bullock. I don't see Javon Bullard falling, Cameron Kitchens falling. Kitana Oladapo could fall. So one of those guys could fall. Maybe we could pick them up for depth. But here's where we sit right now. I see Elijah Hicks being gone. Jaquan Brisker's obviously a stud. Adrian Colbert's expendable, 31 years old. Quindell Johnson is a good depth piece. Douglas Coleman's really a practice squad player. Kevin Byard and Tavarius Moore is going to be a special teams guy, I think, with a little bit of depth. So I think we're pretty set at the safety position now. I don't know if anybody would ever disagree with that, especially with Brisker and Byard. That's really how we're running it back for this year, or running it for this year. But one more look at his stats. Overall, solid, and especially for $7.5 million. I'm going to give it an A-. The only reason I don't give it an A+ is because last year was a little rough. 2021 was a stellar year for him. You can see his interceptions there, 5 interceptions and 6 pass breakups, so and 2 forced fumbles. So really elite year in 2021, and I have no reason not to think he can't get back there. I think he'll do really well in Matt Eberflus's system. So I'll leave that up for a second. Yes, you can check it out, pause it if you want to. But this is a very, very quality signing. I love this signing right off the bat before free agency even started because we could. And there's something big coming, guys. I'm telling you right now, there's something big in the pipeline. It's going to hit anytime, tonight, tomorrow morning. It's going to hit soon. So I'll be right there with you when it happens. We'll break it down. Until then, bear down.